So if we can stand for the pledge. All right.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now the prayer today is the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I feel no evil. For thou art with me, thy rod and thy shaft they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, on May 17th, through the Department on Aging, I approved hiring Natalie Herring, position of part-time recreation and education assistant, to be effective May 28th, 2024, at the rate of $16.84 per hour for the one-year probationary period. This offer of employment was contingent upon the successful completion of the required pre-employment conditions. Additionally, I accepted the resignation of David Craig, Recreation and Education Coordinator, to be effective July 5th, 2024, and granted permission to advertise for the position of full-time Recreation and Education Coordinator internally for a period of 5 days, with applications accepted May 20th, 2024 through 4:30 p.m. May 24th, 2024. If no qualified candidate is found, then advertise externally until the position is filled.
Great.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, today's financials include a supplemental from the Commissioner's Office and the Sheriff Vehicles account for a 2023 carryover encumbrance that, some carryover encumbrances that were canceled due to the vendor being unable to fulfill the purchase. There's a cash transfer from the Board of DD from their operating fund to the Residential Services Fund for Medicaid waiver and locally funded services. Among the encumbrances is the then and now from the Auditor's Office to ComDoc Incorporated for copier maintenance contract services from 2022 that were not previously encumbered, and a travel from the probate court to attend the Ohio Association of Probate, Juvenile, and Domestic Relations Judges Summer Conference. And among the vouchers is a voucher for $53,566 from the Sheriff's Office to Motorola Solutions Incorporated for 800 megahertz trunk radio hardware and software maintenance services. This is just a partial payment. The total payments will end up being $143,226 for this year, and we paid $141,666 last year.
All right. Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the financials.
Second.
Commissioner Rea?
Yes.
Commissioner Boyle?
Yes.
Commissioner Spillier?
And then the next item on the agenda is the adjustment of the 2025 tax budget hearing schedule. Realizing last week the prosecutor went over quite a bit, and we didn't do the other departments that we had scheduled. So we've moved that from last week on May 14th at 4:15 p.m. to today, May 21st at 4:15 p.m.
And that was the commissioner's budget?
No. That is any other departments, because there's a number of departments that we don't have coming to hearings.
Oh,
So
we were
this
gonna
is-
review those.
Yeah, this is our opportunity to discuss
Gotcha.
all the other ones.
Okay, so moved.
Second.
Commissioner Lennon?
Aye.
Commissioner Boyle?
Yes.
Commissioner Spillier?
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Go ahead, Shane.
Good morning.
Hey, morning. Right on time.
I have a few items today. Item number 4, the engineer's office is requesting the board award the bid to CMG Contracting LLC for the embankment stabilization of Gem Road Bridge in Chester Township and embankment stabilization Bundysburg Bridge in Parkman Township in the amount of $129,980 even, as they represented the lowest and best bid. The bid bond submitted shall also serve as the performance bond for this project.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Commissioner Warren?
Yes.
Commissioner DeWort?
Yes.
Commissioner Spillier?
Aye.
Thank you. Item number 5, the county engineer's office is requesting the board award the bid to Colburn Contractors LLC for the asphalt resurfacing of various roads, including Ravenwood Drive, County Highway 604, and Merritt Road, County Highway 605, declared in Munson Township in the amount of $828,828, as they represent the lowest and best bid, and the bid bond shall serve as a performance bond for this project.
Okay, so are they gonna bill and re-asphalt this entire,
Correct.
both of them? Okay.
Yeah, all of Merritt and Ravenwood, and rehabilitate some of the driveways. It also includes putting some super elevation to some of the curbs, because they, currently, the way the outside of those curves are pitched, the vehicles kind of,
Okay. And when would this project start?
probably within the next 45 days.
Okay. All right, I'll make a motion.
Second.
Commissioner Warren?
Yes.
Commissioner DeWort?
Yes.
Commissioner Spillier?
Aye.
And item number 6, the engineer's office requesting the board approve and execute resolution 24-120, authorizing participation in the ODOT Cooperative Purchasing Program pursuant to ORC 5513.01B, which authorizes Commissioner Spitaleri to participate in ODOT contracts for the purchase of machinery, material supplies, and for the purchase of single and tandem axle cab chassis.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Commissioner Warren?
Aye.
Commissioner DeWort?
Yes.
Commissioner Spillier?
Great.
All set?
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Good
Morning.
Okay, we were contacted by the Ohio Department on Aging regarding a Healthy Aging grant that the county received. They sent us a additional notice of a grant award for $2,956. So to receive that, we need to submit a request for funds for the award for the adjustment of the $2,956 for the revised total grant for the county for $204,532. And the grant carries October 1st, 2023 through September 30th, 2024, and we look to use that $2,956 toward our Shore and Home Safety Program to help folks with those adaptations for their home.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Commissioner Warren?
Yes.
Commissioner DeWort?
Yes.
Commissioner Spillier?
Aye.
Okay, thanks.
Great, thank you. Morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Item number 8 and 9 today, we're requesting the board approve and execute a service agreement with Riverside Landscape Management. They're going to do a concrete repair, replacement, new concrete, for a 2-year period, effective May 21st, in an amount not to exceed $60,000.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Commissioner Warren?
Yes.
Commissioner DeWort?
Yes.
Spillier?
And number 9, we're requesting you approve and execute the service agreement with Vine Wood Landscaping to provide semi-annual and as-needed weed control at various county locations and tower sites, as well as as-needed fertilization services for a period ending October 31st, 2025, in an amount not to exceed $35,000.
Very good. So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Warren?
Yes.
Commissioner DeWort?
Yes.
Commissioner Spillier?
All right, thank you very much.
Great, thank you.
I'm covering the next one for water resources. This is a service contract with Mark Young General Contracting to provide some construction and maintenance work for the department at various locations in an amount not to exceed $60,000. Mostly this will be possibly used at McFarland when they're cleaning the membranes, in case they have a crane that they can lift the membrane cases out for them.
Okay. All right, I'll make the motion.
Second.
Commissioner Warren?
Yes.
Commissioner DeWort?
Yes.
Commissioner Spillier?
Aye.
next item is we received a letter from Judge Grindell regarding the withdrawal from the Portage Juvenile Detention Center and to terminate any contract or connection therewith. So this is just to acknowledge the receipt of that letter.
All right, I'll make a motion.
Second?
Commissioner Wood?
Yes.
Commissioner Rea?
Yes.
Commissioner Spillier?
Morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank the board for the chance to come in.
Yeah, good to see you.
With me is Beth Williams, our Director of Youth Services.
Yep.
And
Good to see you.
I want to start by thanking, recognizing, commending Commissioner Spillier because he was the inspiration of the process I'm about to describe to you, because I had sort of given up on the process a while back, but earlier this year he suggested it was worth taking another look at it, so I thank Commissioner Spillier. Back in 2018, I had this great idea. I was looking at what it was costing us to put juveniles in the Portage Geauga County Detention Center, and it was quite expensive. It has ranged anywhere from $460 to $1,400 a night to put a juvenile in that detention center. The fixed cost of the center is something we really don't have a lot of control over. I mean, whether you have one juvenile or 10, you have to have the same number of personnel, and then as you go up from there, you have to add personnel. And so those costs have been a constant headache. Our share in 2020 was around $463,000. 2021 was $476,000. 2022 it had dropped down to $305,000, and in part because what we pay is based on prior year's usage, and there was the COVID year coming up for that one. Then in 2023, after COVID, we were back to $465,000, and we only had 5.1% of the usage of the detention center. And as a county, we still paid $465,000 for putting 44 youths in there for a total of 267 billable nights. So back in 2018, I had approached Judge Lawson in Lake County to see if we could use their youth center, and she was not interested. We then embarked on talking to the folks in Richland County in Mansfield to do a long-term care because they're willing to do it for $100 a night. And we talked to Medina County about doing our short-term care. And we were in negotiations with them when the process got frustrated because the prosecutor said, we can't go forward with these contracts unless we get out of the PGDC. And the PGDC agreement is between you folks and the folks in Portage County. You can't get out of it without my approval, but I certainly think if we can do what I'm going to describe here in a minute, you'll certainly have my approval because it's going to save the taxpayers of this county hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I go back to thanking Commissioner Spillier because I had given up on this. And he had told me, why don't we take another shot? So we took another round at it. We lost the Medina deal for two reasons. COVID came around and Medina kind of had some COVID issues. Then they got sued in federal court at their detention center a couple times, so they decided they didn't want to expand their exposure. So we went back after talking to Commissioner Spillier and revisited the process. We now have reached, at least in principle and in writing, a contract with Lake County. Judge DeLeon, the new juvenile court judge there, was more than welcome to have us come there. He's also opened his doors to Ashtabula County, which closed their detention center several years ago. And they've been sending their kids mostly to Trumbull County. So Judge DeLeon agreed in principle, and we sent you a draft of the agreement to look at, that they would take up to 5 kids a day for $225 a day. We still have the arrangement with Richland County. We sent you a draft of that agreement. They will take kids for our county for $100 a day. Why would we want to ship somebody to Mansfield? Well, the Mansfield use would only be used for what we consider long-termers who are going to be going to detention for a period of time of, let's say, over 90 days. And there won't be any travel back and forth because they've already gone through the adjudicatory process and received their disposition, which is the juvenile form of a sentence. And so we would use them sparingly because we haven't had a child in detention for over 90 days in a couple of years. If somebody's done a felony, they generally will go to the CCF. So you have detention, CCF, and then DYS, which is essentially the use, for lack of a better word, state prison. And so We don't send many people to DYS, very rarely, for several reasons. One, it's kind of a youth offender academy where you can learn from local urban kids to get in even more trouble. Two, there's some safety concerns, so we don't send them there often. But we do send our sex offenders to the CCF program in Sandusky. And even with this arrangement, I would recommend we continue to send our sex offenders to the CCF in Sandusky, because it's a wonderful program. We've had great results. But what we'd like to do with detention is we would like to request the commissioners consider, first, you're going to have to close out of the PGDC. And that's a process that I approve, but I have no control. It's up to you folks. But when you do that, you have to simultaneously have a place to send these folks, juveniles, when we need it. So there's the arrangement with Lake County for $225 a night. They'll take up to 5. After a suggestion from Commissioner Spitaleri, we've talked to Judge DeLeon, I'm meeting with him this afternoon. They're willing to put in a provision that will allow us, under public safety reasons, to expand that number for short periods of time. Richland's willing to take 2 plus on addendum, an unlimited number as long as the space is available, but we won't need that very often. And it's going to be one drive by the sheriff's office to take a youth down there and come back. And then anything from there would be done, if they had to do anything, would be video. And then the parents can pick the juvenile up when the end of the time there is to be returned back to the parents. Compare that, and then Lake County would take the primary people that we have. Compare the trip from my court to Painesville to from my court to Shalersville. It's a great savings for travel for the sheriff, great savings for the cost of that travel. So there's a savings there. To give you an idea, this year we've put 9 juveniles in detention for a total of 30.4 nights. If they were in Lake County, that would have cost us $7,000. If it was in Richland County, it would have cost us $3,000. But our share of this year's operating budget at the PGDC is $582,471. If you average that out to about $48,000 a month, we're already into the cost of detention for this year in the vicinity of $200,000 versus $3,000 or $7,000. It just doesn't make sense. So the last part is, after talking to Commissioner Spitaleri, we talked to Judge Smith, actually Ms. Williams did. They're also willing to do an agreement with us. So we could have 3 agreements. We could have our primary with Lake, we could have our long-term with Richland, and we could have still the PGDC as a backup on a per bed night, not having to carry that percentage of the overall capital cost. Now, I got a feeling that number may be a little high, but it's still not going to be what we're paying today for having to carry our share of the capital costs. There's a couple other great benefits of this. The Lake County facility has some tremendous programs. They were able, Judge Lawson was able to get some $1 million grants from the federal government for her detention center. And she has some excellent programming in that detention center that our juveniles would have immediate access to. And they have a program called
Community Corrections Rehabilitation.
Yeah, they have their own community corrections rehabilitation program where they put their felons. We send our felons to DYS when we have to, or to CCF. When we do that, there's something called reclaim. The state of Ohio sends us reclaim money every year, but they deduct from the reclaim money we get for every time we put a juvenile into DYS or a CCF. So it actually costs us not only the cost, a felon 1 and 2 goes to DYS, we don't pay for it, but we lose reclaim. Here, if we put our felons in their special program, we would not lose that reclaim element, and they're only charging $300 a night for that program, which in my personal opinion is a good cost savings compared to losing that reclaim money on the side of DYS. That doesn't mean that a serious youthful offender who commits a serious crime of violence or rape wouldn't still go to DYS. I mean, there may be, it's based on that juvenile, the background of that juvenile, and how dangerous that juvenile might be, and what kind of help that juvenile needs to eliminate that danger. But, so there would still be a potential occasion when a juvenile would end up in DYS. The sex offenders would still go to CCF. But the bulk of our juveniles would go to Lake County in the short term. Richland County as a long-term, Portage County as a backup, and some would go into that special program for felons, felony level juvenile delinquents, in lieu of DYS, when that's appropriate. So that's what we're trying to put together. My part of this is, I get to approve where we send them. But your part of it is you provide where we send them. And so I'm respectfully requesting you take a look at all this. I think it saves money. I think it helps the sheriff on time and money. I know it's gonna save the county money, because frankly, carrying this detention center at a time when we're not using it that much, because we're using alternate programming and a lot more mental health care facility type things and trauma care type of things, which is where the whole juvenile justice system is going. It's just hard to justify $500,000 when this year we probably won't have more than 30 kids in that detention center for more than, who knows, maybe 150, 120 days. And we could save a lot of money for going the other direction. And for families, in some degree, except the ones down there in Bainbridge, Auburn area, it's a shorter drive. Those folks are closer to Shalerville, but for the rest of the county, Paintsville's a shorter place. And I've had the privilege of touring all these facilities. I would be glad to arrange for the commissioners if anyone would like to see the facilities. But the Lake County facility is first class with great programming. The Richland County is first class and safe. All these are safe. And we know the Portage County one, because that's the one we've been doing. But I just think somewhere here there's a way to do this. But it has to kind of happen simultaneously.
Right.
You can't get us out of detention and have no place to go. But as I understand it from the prosecutor's office, you can't sign these things until you've made the arrangements to get out of detention. So that's what we're asking you to look into. And we'll be glad to work with you, and glad to answer any questions you have. And again, thank Commissioner Spilleri. I gave up, but thanks to you, Ralph, telling me to try again. I think we got a win-win program potential.
I appreciate you continuing to push forward with this, because this has been, since I think when I first started, a conversation that we've been having and going to these joint detention meetings that we would have with Portage County, where we would really just sit by as somewhat bystanders. The commissioners had really no authority other than just to review the expenses that had already occurred. We really had no direction or influence as far as where to put them. And this thing, being an equity share partner in this agreement, is, and maybe in the past was a good business plan, but this thing's really just become a boat anchor around the county's neck. I mean, it's just a huge expense.
You did bring one point, I thank you for this. We're the tail of the dog, too.
Yeah.
We sit on the detention board.
Right.
But our county has 3 boats and Portage has 4.
Yeah.
And so we're the tail of the dog. I mean, we work together very well, but still, potentially, we could always be minority vote on issues if they decided they wanted to play county to county.
Absolutely. And yeah, we're just kind of at the whim of wherever, however, and really they were the bulk users of it for all these years. And I know, like you had just stated, the trend is changing. It's more towards rehabilitation. The lock them up plan is really not what they're going after anymore. But it was always like the chicken and the egg. We could never really go out and enter into another agreement until we had exited this agreement that we're currently in, right? I guess that's what our prosecutor was saying. So, but that still remains, right?
Well, yeah, you have to almost, here's my recommendation, and obviously I'm not giving you legal advice, that's the prosecutor's job. I think you have to have the 3 contracts negotiated in the form that you folks are willing to live with, and Lake County. And interesting, you're actually negotiating with the judge of Lake County, because under their system, he controls their detention center. And then Portage County with Judge Smith, whoever's running that detention center. And then it's Judge McKinley in Richland County. And I think you and the prosecutor, everybody needs to be comfortable with the pieces of paper in front of you that say, here's what we're going to do going forward. And then at the same time, have whatever piece of paper you have to terminate the current PGDC.
So it
and you kind of have to be at a table,
Yeah.
and everything sort of has to happen almost simultaneously to make it work, as I understand it. Maybe there's something I'm missing. That was the problem last time. Last time we had the agreements, but we weren't out of the PGDC.
Right.
by the way, I can say this, I believe Judge Smith and the folks in Portage County will be supportive of this. I believe that she would like to have control of her detention center, nothing personal with us, but it's their detention center. Her court's in that building. We're not, we're up here.
Yeah.
So, but I think somebody has to finish this, get them all on the table, have everybody who has to sign with a pen, and this all sort of has to happen
Yeah,
kind of at the same
and
time.
even, I don't even know if the possibilities there with Portage County, but we're happy to maybe even possibly still be a customer of, you know, Portage County, but not an equity share partner.
And they're willing to do that. They are willing to be, I'd like it to be Lake County as our first choice, Portage is backup for short term.
Yeah.
Richland, we're not gonna use Richland often, but it's nice to have that $100 a night when some kid's earned his way to 120 or 150 nights of detention.
And you explained to me that usually on something like Richland, which is very rare if that would ever happen, and I know it is an additional drive, you know, say for the sheriff's department to take somebody to Richland County, but it's usually a one-way ticket. You know, they're 17, we're getting ready to turn 18.
Right.
And there's 3 strikes and you're out, and it's kind of like you've already tried as hard as you could, and that's your, you
Yeah,
know.
absolutely. That's the ones where they're beyond rehabilitation.
Yeah.
They're going to their, just
They're getting ready for the big leagues.
To say it, running out the clock on their
Yeah.
time, they're approaching 18,
Yeah.
and spending $500-600 a night just doesn't make sense, as long as they're safe, and they'll be safe in Richland, and the sheriff will take them there and back, the parents will pick them up. We
Yeah.
won't run court proceedings if we have to there, if there's a reason, we'll zoom it. But I don't see any reason, because this is past their disposition, past their sentencing. I mean, this is it, you finish your time and you're out, your
Yeah.
parents can come and get you.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
And the parents can go visit. I mean, these are kids who've earned it. I mean, this is better than sending them to DYS, but their behavior has earned this kind of, and it doesn't happen often.
And then in the near future, when and I know this has been a long ongoing thing and maybe even a frustration for the courts, was having the availability of respite care right here in Geauga County.
I rather you took the money we're saving and help us with that.
And
Yeah.
put it towards, so
Absolutely.
so the plans are still, they're actually, you know, gonna start getting some traction here to get that up and running. Once we have our own youth center, you'll be able to take advantage of that, and there'll be designated space in the youth center for the juvenile court for respite care.
And based on the past years, you'll be saving $200,000 to $300,000 easily that you could have repositioned for that kind of services, which is what we're using more now.
Yeah.
But we're doing that service outside. We're sending them to places outside the county for trauma care, and those kind of youth services. It would be nice to keep them here. It'd be cheaper if we could keep them here. But that's where these, I mean, we were at 12% of the detention center in 2020, 15% in 21. Last year, we were 5.1%. And yet we still carry, I mean, it cost over $2 million to run that place.
Yeah.
Whether it's one kid or 15 or 30. It's built for 48 beds. It was built back in the day when Judge Lambert was here, when it had, 25, 35 kids there between the two counties. But the whole juvenile system has changed. You're not going there. Our biggest program is what we call the weekend program. We tell the kid, for the next 20 weekends, every Friday you come to detention and you go home on Sunday. But if you don't screw up during the week at school, you don't get in trouble with the community, you don't get in trouble at home, we waive that thing. It's sort of the carrot and the stick thing. And that program works very well and saves money. But the problem is when we do have to use the detention center, it's costing us a lot of money right now. And I just don't, we're not, nothing against the detention center, we're just not getting the return
No.
on this investment. We're just not.
And I said, kind of half kidding, but, you could put them off in the Waldorf Astoria with a limo ride both ways, for that kind of money.
Well, that's what I said, the constable can stay with them at the Ritz downtown and
Yeah.
still save $400 a night.
Right.
Which is, I mean, I appreciate your time. I'm glad Commissioner Spitaleri got this back on the track, because I think we can make it work this time, with a little bit of help. But you gotta have to figure out the simultaneous process. And I know Judge Smith is open to this conversation, but I really think it's you three and the three over there have to figure out how
Yeah.
what happens with the process.
We'll work with the prosecutor's office.
Yeah, so-
Did you talk to?
Yeah, so
Okay.
just to kind of give you an update, so I talked to Prosecutor Flays, he,
This was what we got from him.
last week, so he had no issues with any of the agreements that we had. The only concern that he had was the max of 5 people. I reached back out to you, Judge, and let you know about that. And we then, you had made the contact with Judge Smith to be able to fail-safe that as far as just an everyday ability of having some additional space available to us. And, you know, we went through this, you know, when I called you at the beginning of the year, it was just, you know, this is just foolish what we continue to do, and we're throwing out money. Last Thursday, we had our joint meeting, and, you know, we had questioned some of the budget numbers that they had because they were showing a carryover. So we were fortunate enough to discover that they had done some accounting figures that were incorrect, that we're gonna be getting back potentially up to maybe, what, Jim, 200,000?
Yeah, 225 something.
So we'll be getting that back also. That's over the course of 2 different years, last year and '21, that they had a little bit of a mix-up in their numbers. So at the end of the day, this is just gonna make sense, I think. And Sheriff, thanks for coming in too. I mean, do you agree also this is, I think the concern was probably the drive, but I think this could be a situation that would work for us.
Yeah, I think, I'd love to use Lake County rather than Portage. I mean, it's much closer, it'd be a lot easier, and, you know, there's often we would have to go to Richmond is what it sounds like, Richfield. It wouldn't be, I mean, it's like us taking somebody to prison.
Right.
You know, so, and it saves the county money, I think it's a great idea.
Thank you. Well, I've been here for 6 years, and we've always been talking about this, cutting costs. And all 3 of us have always agreed to, anytime we could exit the Portage Jaga Detention Center, we would do that. And, I mean, we all have to get our ducks in a row, and hopefully we can get this done before the end of the year. But we have to research that 22% of what we're invested in that building.
Right.
Because the last meeting that you and I went to, they start rattling off all these expenses, refrigerator, washing machine, this and that, tractor, stuff like that. So that's when we had the votes to gather the money that was, they didn't have it in the right place.
Yeah.
So,
Unfortunately,
We made
you know,
a
one of their
correction.
own commissioners voted in our favor. Is, you know, we made a case that basically stated, you know, let's get this back to 0, and then we'll decide from there where to go. And he, Commissioner Tinlin, you know, to his credit, supported Jaga, and we were able to get it across the finish line to get that. But, you know, I think that Linda Henny probably could speak a little more. We could actually take action on the ability of taking action to withdraw from Portage County, that we could get them, and Linda, have you?
Christie has the language that was
Item number 1.
supplied to us.
We already did number 1.
Number 1 is done, number
We
2
already did
would be
number
the
one.
one
Okay.
where it would say that you would agree to withdraw effective June 30th, so we have time to get the document. The prosecutor has already, in essence, said he's okay with the 2 agreements you supplied to us,
Right, and then we're getting one from Judge Smith.
and we just have to figure out, are we gonna just cut our losses and walk away? Are we gonna ask them to give us something? It was suggested we have an appraisal done. I don't know who would appraise the value of our share of that. I mean, I don't know how we would do that, so those would be some details we would have to figure out in terms of the Portage agreement.
Let me give a suggestion I made. The Medina County Director, I believe he's still there, former highway patrolman, did our evaluation of our PGDC, an in-depth one a couple of years ago. Somebody may want to ask him if he's capable of giving some sort of evaluation, because he's also running the Medina one, so he should have some idea what it's worth.
He's currently running the.
I think he's still running Medina.
Can you give us contact information?
Beth will get that to you,
Oh,
yeah.
perfect.
But I think he might be able to help you with that issue, because he's got a lot of experience in it.
Yeah, I mean, that brings up a good point. I guess you gotta look at it, you know, if this is gonna be a tangled up thing where it drags on forever, trying to figure out how to exit, or if you just make a clean break and cut your losses and say we're better, you know, let's just.
and with the savings, we would make up for what we walked away from.
You know, and I think also we could put it on their plate of saying, you know, how do you want to figure out what you owe us?
Yeah.
you know? And, you know, one of the other things that Prosecutor Flazen stated is if there was a situation also, whether in full or in combination, is if we do have days, or if we do have a balance,
Right.
could we possibly use that towards credit
Right, for future
for
days.
future days
Exactly.
at Portage? So, you know, and then we would just have to keep track of how that is. But, you know, I think that the critical part is, I think that we need to just pull the trigger on this
I
and get
agree.
them a letter and have a, you know, set date of the 30th to be able to do this. And then, you know, I can tell you that they seem to be pretty confident, because they mentioned it probably, what, 3 times,
Yeah.
that we're getting out at the meeting Thursday.
Yeah, they hinted what we knew.
So, yeah, so I think that they pretty much know this is coming, and it's just a matter of, you know, and I think that if they follow also what's in the original, you know, contract, that they understand that they're gonna have some type of compensation towards us also to compensate us, I believe it's 22% of the value, but, you know, I think that the day that we do this, is the day we start saving money.
I agree.
And it's just that we need to stop this bleeding, because it's just foolish.
And our juveniles will get a better program. I hate to say this because I said it in the other board, but Lake County, thanks to those grants they got, they've got some programming we couldn't afford to do at Portage Jog.
Yeah.
And that's gonna help our juveniles. And this thing with the DYS is no small thing. If we could, we sent one kid to DYS maybe 3 years ago, because we actually had sent him to the detention center, and he caused a riot in the detention center. And so he gets a felony conviction out of Portage, but we get him for purposes of disposition under juvenile rule 11. So where are you gonna put him, right? He's already blown up our detention center, so we sent him to DYS for 6 months to the age of 21. That's sentencing for a felony 2, 3, or 4 level for juvenile. We thought he'd be there for 6 months. He liked it there. Near the end of the 6-month thing, he would do some bizarre stuff, attacking correction officers and stuff. He was there for what, 18 months, 2 years? I mean, he just wouldn't leave. And it cost this county, unfortunately, a lot of money, because we lost all that reclaim down. At least we would have in Lake County, we wouldn't have lost our reclaim money. He might have stayed there for 2 years, because he just didn't want to go home, apparently. But we would have saved a lot of money, because their program, and their program's a very good program, is a heck lot cheaper than losing our reclaim money.
Actually, I think he stayed there partially because he was not gang involved before he went, but became gang involved when he was
Yeah,
there.
that's
So
another problem.
that was
Yeah.
an issue that, you know, in DYS, he became gang involved, and a lot of his behavioral problems were a result of that.
Just
You know,
because
Lake
of the
County-
clientele there.
Well, you have to survive, right?
Yeah,
You have
he
to
had to
survive. A kid coming from Joliet County, going to a place that has a lot of urban gangbangers is not my idea of a good prescription.
Yeah.
I mean, something's not gonna happen well. And unfortunately, with that young man, we don't send them there often. You gotta commit a serious crime as a juvenile. I mean, to really hurt somebody, do something really, selling fentanyl, we sent a kid from Cleveland for that. But our kids going there, I call it going to the felony academy. Because our kids are not used to that clientele, and yet they're in there with them, so they have to morph to survive.
And once they get in there, we don't have a choice
And
when
then,
they come out.
yeah, we don't get, once we
You
put
know,
them in,
it's-
the DYS decides when they get parole. So we're sort of at the mercy of them. So they kept flopping his parole date, and it cost us, unfortunately, now I have to say the happy ending. The young man got his act together, is living in Toledo, and is doing quite well. So ultimately, it seemed to work out, but it was not a happy route, and we wish we'd have alternatives that we didn't at that time, but we will now with this Lake County situation.
Oh, great. All right, so, we want to read, resolution, this number 2, and approve that?
So the Commissioner's Office is requesting the Board to withdraw from the Joint Board of County Commissioners of Portage and Jogga Counties and the Joint Portage Jogga Juvenile Detention and Rehabilitation Center District effective June 30th, 2024, and to initiate the process to withdraw and identify and receive the necessary compensation for any and all of Jogga County's interest therein. All members of the Board of Trustees of the district who are residents of Jogga County shall be deemed to have resigned their position upon completion of the withdrawal procedure.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Second.
Commissioner Ronan?
Yes.
Commissioner Boyer?
Yes.
Commissioner Spillier?
Good.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, Deb. We'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Do you want to do the next one down then,
Um,
that he has listed here as well?
What do you think?
I think so.
Okay, okay, why don't you read that?
So the Commissioner's Office is requesting the board to secure an appraisal of Jogga County's interest in the Portage Jogga Juvenile Detention and Rehabilitation Center, both old facility and new facility if necessary, and to also request Portage County obtain an appraisal in accordance with the 1998 agreement between Portage and Jogga counties.
Okay, I'll make the motion.
Second?
Commissioner Wallace?
Aye.
Commissioner DeWart?
Yes.
Commissioner Spillier?
Aye.
Good.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
so much. Good
Appreciate
time.
Thank you again. Commissioners, I think this will have a long-term benefit.
Agreed. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff.
You really?
Yeah, motion for number 13, which is the Commissioner's Office requesting board cancel session on the 30th of May.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
Second?
Yes.
Yes.
Aye. Okay, any questions? No questions? Anything else, Jerry?
Anything else?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
What time is it?